Despite being one of the longest months of the year, October went by very, very quickly, and we're already a little bit into November, so it's now time to do some updates about what got done in October and what's coming up in November, both very busy months and a lot of really cool announcements to bring to light, to talk about. Before I go into all that, there's 4 things that I want to sort of call attention to. One is that the half-hour Hegel series, which we've been doing now since February, we finally reached one of the very early milestones, which is finishing a section. So the preface now is finally done. It took 31 lecture videos, but we're going to be moving into the introduction very soon, so that's a big bit of news. Another big announcement. We brought out a new channel just a few days ago on critical thinking, logic, and argumentation. If you remember back, I've been talking about starting to do, in a more organized way, more focused way, bring out new channels where it's just about one area of philosophy, or perhaps one big classification. I might do a history of philosophy one, which would of course encompass several different periods and a lot of different thinkers. But we got the first one out, which is on critical thinking, logic, and argumentation, and I'll talk more about that when I get to the months. Stoic Week is coming up this month of November. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff lined up for that. And World Philosophy Day. It's a UNESCO, United Nations event. That's also happening in November as well. As I said, October was a very busy month. I had a few different talks going on. In addition to the Glimpses into Existence Library series talk that we've been doing this year at the Kingston Library, this month on Simone de Beauvoir. It was a very fun session. I also went up to Green Mountain College and packed in both a talk and a faculty development workshop while I was up there. Beautiful place, by the way, and they have some really interesting programs there. So the talk was on Aristotle, anger, virtue, and vice, and you can see the video for it. I'll link to it here in the description. And then I also gave a faculty development seminar, and interestingly enough, it was on lecture capture, which is using video to capture what you're doing and provide it to your students. In this case, provide it to viewers, lifelong learners, anybody who's interested in philosophy on the internet. So there was that. And then another thing that was very important for me was I went to the American Catholic Philosophical Association, which is it's a conference that they have their own association, which is pretty large. It might actually be the second largest philosophy association in the United States after the American Philosophical Association, which pretty much everyone's stuck belonging to. This is one that people choose to belong to. And they focus on all sorts of things all across the range. Not everybody in it is a Catholic, actually. Certainly not everybody in it is focused on traditional Catholic philosophers like Thomas Aquinas or the guy who I worked on, St. Anselm. And they have a lot of satellite sessions, and one of the satellite sessions at that event was the Institute for St. Anselm Studies, and I was invited to come and give a talk specifically about Anselm's Cur Deus Homo, Mercy, and Justice. And it was part of a very fun panel. I didn't get video of that, but I did create a podcast of that, so I'll link to that here as well. And it was really great to go back to the ACPA. I hadn't been there since 2008. I ran into a lot of old colleagues and friends, made some new friends, and talked with quite a few people about some really interesting topics. It's a great place if you're interested in Aristotle or Thomas Aquinas or even Kierkegaard and Hegel. There's a lot of people there who read these people and who really think about them. So that was a good one as well. I did a lot of video work during October. As I said, we brought the half-hour Hegel series to its first close. It's not the close of the series, which will happen about 2.5 years from now, hopefully, if we stay on track. But we did finish the preface, and so it feels really good to get to the end of of that. We're getting ready to move further with that, but I'll talk about that when I get to the November part. Shot a number of Plato Core Concept videos, and these were focused mostly on the operatic dialogues like the Meno, the Ion, the Euthyphro. I did get one released on the Phaedo, on something that I think is really important, misology, and why we need to avoid it. I did a 10 shorts video and answered some viewers' questions. I'll probably do another one of those later this month. I shot a video, two videos on Kafka's Metamorphosis. I'm finally getting back into the Existentialism series. I need to get more done on that. And of course, as I mentioned, we brought out a brand new channel devoted to critical thinking, logic, and argumentation, because those all kind of fit together. So that channel is going to include those two disciplines of critical thinking and logic, but also argument more broadly. So you can expect down the line to see things like my doing a series on Chaim Perlman's New Rhetoric, or Aristotle's categories and logical works, other Mill's methods, things like that, things that come along that are in that vein. Maybe I'll do something on Clifford's Ethics of Belief, because that often gets brought up in terms of critical thinking. What's really cool about this is now that I've got the new channel, I can organize the content any way that I want to. Not really possible to do given how many videos we've already got stuffed into this channel and how many more I'm bringing out. We're already past the 550 video mark. So if I want to do new things, new projects along these lines, it really needs to be under the aegis of a new channel. So what else went on in October? Was developing course content still for some online platforms, ranging from full 4-credit classes like a Palermo. I'm already starting to work on my Marist online classes coming up later this fall, and there's a few other online platforms that you could say participating in a very minor way, but getting ready to move into in a more serious way in the coming months. I did a lot of Google Helpouts this month. That was kind of fun to do. They can come out of all different directions. I ended up talking with people about things ranging from Hegel's phenomenology to ideas in Plato or Nietzsche to rational choice theory and how we should look at equations for that sort of stuff. I'm slowly building the philosophical counseling business. There's quite a few moving parts to that. I've been doing more blogging, not as much as I'd like yet, but I'm getting more consistent with the blog entries and staying on top of that. And I did get some academic writing done, and that felt very good. There's a lot of projects that I've got going, a lot of old orphaned papers that I need to start sending out for publication. So yeah, there's all of that. I also contributed some sound files for the Punk Rock Philosopher show. If you don't know what that is, it's a friend and colleague of mine who does something rather unique. He takes philosophy discussions and mixes in music, and it can be all over the map. He's got some pretty wide tastes. And some of his own discussions about things and some of the sound files that I provide him with. He's been focusing a lot on Plato and trying to come up with connections between Plato, not genetic connections, but sort of similarity connections, Plato and Eastern philosophy. So, kind of an innovative idea to do that sort of thing. And I started doing one other thing that was new this month. I started loading up podcasts, and I've been storing them in archive.org, in part because I'm just not quite sure where I want to go with them, and I need to have a home for them, and that makes them public domain, so that's kind of cool. But I've also been compiling them in a list in my main blog, Arexis de Noetique. If you go to Arexis de Noetique and you want to see the podcast, there's a button there. You just click on it. They come down and you can see them. So far, I think I have 8 or 9 in there, but we're looking at eventually, having hundreds of podcasts. And this is all just, at this point, old material, talks that I've given at various places. We're going to take the glimpses of existence, turn them into podcasts, turn some of the class stuff into podcasts. But eventually down the line, I'm going to start doing some new series that are just podcast stuff. But I'll tell you more about that when that happens. November is lined up to be an extraordinarily busy month, probably the busiest that we've ever had. So I'm kind of glad that we have relatively light stuff on the calendar for December at this point. I have talks lined up pretty much every single week during the month, some doubling up. On the 6th, we have Theology Matters, which is an internet radio show. You can listen live or you can hear a podcast of it, and they're having me on to talk about St. Augustine and his views on divine existence and the divine nature. I'll mostly be talking about stuff coming out of his on the free choice of the will, but some stuff from the Confessions, some stuff perhaps from City of God or on Christian doctrine. The 9th at the Rock Tavern Unitarian Universalist Church, I will be giving a sermon on ancient Christian attitudes towards anger. So that's a bit of a different genre, but it's kind of fun to branch out. And I've been wanting to try this for a while. On the 16th, yet a different genre. I'll be on Radio Woodstock, Roundtable in the morning. And I'm not quite sure yet what we're talking about, but I'm hoping to steer the conversation to the stuff that's coming up later that month. The 20th is World Philosophy Day. It's a UNESCO holiday, and they give you pretty broad latitude about how you want to celebrate it. So what I'm doing is I've actually got lined up a friend and colleague of mine, Leandro Lima, who is, by profession, he's a programmer. But he's been working for several years now on a project that I've been helping him out with as president of Reason.io in terms of critical thinking, and it's called Truth Score. It's really it's a great platform because what it allows you to do is to model argument and allow people to build out cases for things and then to weigh in on whether they think it's a good argument or a bad argument, down to the very premises and conclusions of them. So this has a lot of potential for raising the bar when it comes to public discourse in terms of debate, critical thinking, all sorts of things. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. If you can join us, it'll be broadcast live, using Google Hangouts on Air. We'll also have a video of it that you'll be able to watch afterwards. You can actually use the Q&A app to go and put questions in that you want us to answer, or comments ahead of time, and we'll try to get to all of them if we can. I think I've got him down for an hour, but I might try to squeeze an hour and a half out of him. Then the 11th Glimpses of Existence lecture at the historic Kingston Library. This one is going to be on Albert Camus, really important existentialist thinker. I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground. I'm going to talk about the early works like the Metamorphosis and the Stranger, and go into the later things like the Plague and the Fall and the Rebel, and talk about the differences between these, call out some of Camus' main ideas. Usually we get a really great crowd and some great discussion, so if you can't physically be there, you can at least watch the video. We post the videos for all these Glimpses of Existence sessions. And that'll be the 11th. We're almost near the end of the year. We're talking with the library about what series we might do next year. So that's something kind of cool coming up. And then something really big, and I haven't done anything with this in the past, but I've decided I want to jump into this year. The 24th through the 30th is Stoic Week. And what do you do during Stoic Week? Well, you talk about Stoicism. And there's lots and lots of room for different kinds of events. We sent out queries last couple weeks to some of the local institutions, even some of the local high schools, to see if people are interested. And we got a few nibbles. We'll see later in the month whether we consolidate these things or not. At the very least, myself, I am going to have a Dr. Sadler Philosophy Forum where I'm going to field questions about Stoicism, and we'll talk, about important Stoic thinkers, what effects they've had, all sorts of things like that. I'll probably do that as a kickoff thing on the 24th. I'm going to release videos each day of that week devoted specifically to Stoicism. So we're looking at guys like Epictetus, Seneca, Cicero. I'm really a big fan of Cicero. I know somebody's going to say wasn't technically a Stoic, but he tells us a lot about Stoicism, and he was influenced by them. So Marcus Aurelius, we'll do quite a bit on them. Even on Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, I'll probably do something on Stoicism and gratitude at that point. I might do some discussion about Stoicism and its modern forms like cognitive behavior therapy, which is influenced by Stoicism. But in any case, that's coming up. Might do some blogging about that as well. So what do we got going on as far as videos? We're going to start new Hegel videos. So we finished with the preface, conveniently, by the end of October, and now we're going to go into Hegel's introduction. You might say, why does he have an introduction after the preface? Well, when you go into the introduction, you'll see it's much more straightforward and easier to understand than the preface is, which seems to be like all over the map. That one won't take quite as long because there are only 17 paragraphs to it, as opposed to 72 as there were in the preface. So I'm thinking if we really, make good progress, we could have it finished up by the end of the month, if not, probably by mid-December. So that's the half-hour Hegel videos. In the Existentialism series, I committed to shooting a lot more Kafka. I've got the trial to go through. I decided that in addition to those two, I also want to shoot videos on the letter to his father, inside the penal colony, the judgment, and his discussions of parables. So that's a lot of videos to come up this month. If I do get through all of those and I still have the energy to do it, I could consider shooting stuff on Simone de Beauvoir, because we need to get some of her stuff into the series as well. But I think that's a lot of existentialism videos. I'm going to shoot some more Plato videos, more core concept videos. Got some Phaedo material to go through. But then I also want to start doing some on one of the greatest works of Plato, the Symposium. As I mentioned earlier, we have a whole new channel that's out, this critical thinking channel. And I've already got 4 videos uploaded in the first playlist. The first playlist is about the fallacies. I want to start with something that's pretty straightforward, something that people can start using right away, and then I'm going to start adding more things in, like, deductive and inductive and abductive arguments, and how to, diagram arguments, why that's a useful thing to do, and how to evaluate information sources, and then we'll start getting into more and more technical things, probably having to do with logic or rhetoric. But that's down the line. For this month, we're going to concentrate on churning out these fallacy videos. I want to create a robust playlist that people can use, in part because I think we're probably getting close to the time of the semester when there's lots and lots of critical thinking classes going on, and students are going to be kind of panicking a little bit about, how do I keep all these fallacies straight in my head, and what are they, because they'll be taking tests on them. So this will be a really great resource for that. And we have, We've already got 4 of those fallacy videos shot. We've probably got about another 50 or so to produce in that series. So, and that's not even including ones that are just devoted to examples. In each of those videos, the ones that I'm uploading now, I give 3 examples. I'm also going to create some that are just chock full of examples so that people can use those. Writing projects. That's another thing that November is supposed to be focused on. I have a few papers on Aristotle and Anselm, and even if I can get to it, I've got a Hobbes paper too that have been sitting there for a while. Some of them I presented at conferences before. Some of them I just started writing and never completely brought to a satisfactory, totally polished finish. But they need to find homes, so I need to get them in good enough shape to start getting sent out to journals. And I've got quite a few of those. One on Aristotle and proairesis, Anselm on marriage, the one that I just presented recently about Anselm and Curtius Homo and justice and mercy. All those sort of things need to start getting sent out. I'm still working on the Aristotle book projects. I'm currently developing, a prospectus for a book on Aristotle and leadership. The Aristotle and anger stuff, I'm working on chapters with that right now. And in addition to those, I've got an end of November deadline for a different writing project, a textbook, and I need to get the proposal and the sample chapter for that finished. I'm in communication with a press that wants, they want me to write for them, but they want me to jump through a lot of hoops, as they always do. What else have we got going on in November? I'm going to be continuing blogging, so I should run through the list of my blogs. My main blog is Orexis Dia Noetique. That's sort of your one-stop shop for links to all the other things that I'm doing. It tells you about it links you to the video courses, to the podcasts, keeps you updated about what's going on with other projects that I'm involved in. Virtue Ethics Digest. I didn't get that much done, just one post for that last month, but I've got a few ideas lined up for this month. Sadler Existentialism Updates. That one's moving along full steam, so I'm just going to keep that going. Heavy Metal Philosopher. Haven't written in that for a while, but we just saw 2 big shows over the last month and a half, so I probably need to do some writing about that, and I've got some other ideas that I want to start putting down, not on paper, but electronically. And what am I leaving out? The half-hour Hegel blog. Mostly that's posting like, hey, we got this video up, but every once in a while, if I have some rumination about Hegel, I'll put that down. And there's been a really interesting development having to do with the half-hour Hegel videos and the series, and a social media platform that picked up on it. I'm not going to tell you about it here. You got to go to the blog and check it out if you want to know what it is. But I'll just say it's pretty cool. And I'll be releasing that. I finally wrote the blog entry for that. I'll be releasing that later this week. Still collaborating with the punk rock philosopher, whose shows come out on Wednesdays now. You can listen to them live, or you can download them. It's even if you just listen to it as background music, he's got some pretty interesting musical tastes, and there's a little bit of philosophy mixed in with that as well, so you can bone up on your Plato. That's everything that's coming up for November, so that's quite a bit. We'll see how we do with getting all of this done. Certainly, you can expect to see a lot of new video content. If you can make it to any of my talks, come on in and introduce yourself, and I'll be happy to chat with you about that. And not much you can do in terms of the writing projects. That's stuff I have to work on myself. But if you enjoy this channel, come on over to the Critical Thinking channel if you're into that sort of thing, and see if you want to subscribe to that as well. Great way to stay updated about all the new material that we'll be adding there. Otherwise, have a great month of November. Join us for the World Philosophy Day event, and during Stoic Week, we want to try to get a lot of participation in those, because I think those are really great for philosophy to actually have some things on the calendar. Otherwise, have a great month.